If you're ready to step into greater potential in your life, this conversation is for you. My name is Ed Marquis. I'm an energy worker, a quantum healer, and a mentor. And this is a space for real stories of transformation. I created this interview series because every person that has moved through my Heaven on Earth mentorship has their own journey, their own breaking points, awakenings, and becoming. This is a 6-month container. And when someone is held with that level of time, support, and energetic care, the shifts that happen are deeply layered, unique, and honestly impossible to capture in a single testimonial. So rather than telling you about the work myself, I wanted you to hear it directly from those who have lived it. These are raw, honest conversations about the before, the during, and the transformation that happens when someone decides that they're ready to step into alignment, peace, and sovereignty. As you listen, I invite you to pay attention to anything that resonates. If anything awakens within you, trust that. Nothing is coincidence, right? Nothing is random. It's an invitation. So, with that, this is Heaven on Earth, lived, embodied, and shared. I hope you enjoy. I think we're just going to jump right into it.
Amazing.
If you can share, like, what about Heaven on Earth drew you in? Like, what about it made it a yes for you?
Yeah, honestly, I think the 6 month format was really, really just amazing to see. I feel like a lot of times I see like 3 week classes or 4 week classes. And so going away for like a weekend or, dedicating just like a certain block of time almost felt like I would just be taking myself out of the things that I'm already have going on in life. And I feel like the way that Heaven on Earth is set up, it's meant to like integrate into your life and like help you create the space to make the changes that you want to make, and it like becomes a part of your life, and you don't need to. I feel like for me, making that time and that dedication like to really do the work and not let it become a, it's not like something to become like us on the side thing for me, but just the fact that it was over an extended period of time made me feel like, okay, I can take my time asking questions. I don't need to just hyper focus on this all the time. Like, it's something that I can just integrate and like move through. I also just felt like what better of a way than to like do a long-term like commitment so that like the program can grow with you. I feel like that was something that really excited me when I got the chance to speak to you about like how the format of the program works and like how each cohort does a different kind of application and like integration of these very beautiful foundations based on like what everyone else is experiencing. Maybe there's like a collective thing that everybody's, working through. And so that just made me really excited to know that like as I grow, I can also ask the questions that'll come to me and like receive the guidance that'll come to me as I grow instead of enrolling in a short term course, which I've done, and then having to then enroll in another course to address like this whole new chapter. I just felt like there was real space for me to grow and like step into myself, which I felt was really unique, especially considering that there are so many financial options for me too as like a student, and it felt like a really good like use of my time and just like a really big blessing. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up, like the having the spaciousness to address things as they're coming up, like knowing that there is time versus a weekend intensive and now what, right? Like now I need to go back and maybe pay for one-on-ones to get those questions answered. Yeah, it's very much intended to be a, I'm here to hold your hand, I'm here to answer the things, I'm here to like address whatever is coming up. And there was something else that you said. Oh, you mentioned, okay, so I wanted to just get into the details of the long-term commitment, right? Like, yes, 6 months sounds like a long time. And it is, it's half a year, all right? But in retrospect, when you really consider like the depth of what happens in 6 months, it's actually a very short amount of time for what happens, right? Like, I mean, I designed this program as something that I wish I had when I was like starting on my journey. And it is meant to be like expedited in a way because we are consistent. So let's talk a little bit about the structure for anybody who feels like 6 months. Are we meeting every day? How much time do I have to invest outside of our group calls? How was that experience for you?
It was honestly so great. I totally agree with you. I feel like 6 months flew by. And that's like totally what I mean about like weekend versus couple week programs. Like, if you've ever been a part of one or considered one, it goes by really fast. And this program was no different because I feel like, you know, the program was like, okay, you commit like 1 hour a week for sure. And then you also commit to your monthly call. And then you also have bi-weekly check-ins, right? Yeah, I think that was it. So when you really look at it, it's almost like within those times, you're getting so much support because there's a group chat if you want to like tap in, or if there's something, really pressing that's coming up, like you've always been made yourself, available so that, for me, I can stay grounded, when something would come up and I was like, I don't know how to address this. I'm really glad it's coming up. You'd offer solutions. Really, like, it's this kind of like check in throughout the week without it having to shift your schedule or shift like for me it was very manageable because I have classes, then I had work, then I had to study, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make this time? But it was such like a healing space for me. Like, it really held so much space for me that it was almost like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do this. It doesn't feel like it's almost like hanging out with a friend who just really cares about you, and then hanging out with a group of friends that you make. And so it became a nourishing and enjoyable process. It didn't feel like, oh my gosh, this week I have so many so and so check ins. I have two check ins, 2 hours. Oh my gosh, those are 2 hours. It was like, oh my gosh, this week I have two check ins. I'm so excited. I get to tap in with these people who really have my best interest in mind and like want to know how I'm doing. And when we're not talking, collectively or in an individual call, like, we all get to learn these really cool things. And maybe you're like me, where like I didn't have the space to talk about these things in my like physical immediate environment, just because of what my commitments were at that time and where I was located and just whatever factors, could be different for everybody. But it was almost like, man, even if we aren't talking, like, we're learning these cool things together. And there's just like, I feel like always just this unspoken excitement about learning these things. And like, especially when you see for me, the results were immediate. Like, I'm talking like there were definitely things that I had to work through my own mental blocks of like, what is preventing me from fully receiving, some of the energy work that was being offered to me by my spirit guides and also you as a mentor. But like right off the bat, like first day, like I feel like we were really dropped into the container. So it immediately becomes nourishing. It like feels both like community wise, like really nourishing, but it also feels like a moment to pause and relax and reset and ground into, like, for me, I feel like my purpose here, right? Which is like to be happy and to care for myself and my passions and be like, how can I integrate the fullest and best part of what makes me happy about life by using these tools to allow me to personally embody those things, It became more of like a fun thing instead of this kind of dreadful thing. And I was worried because I was like, oh man, I'm taking on another class, but I'm like in a 4-year university at like a UC school, which is like doing 2 degrees at once. But it was perfect. I actually think it helped me more like than it did actually like take any of my time.
Great. Yeah, and that I mean that speaks to like a very specific group of people, student, working, full-time, all the things, right? And committing to something like this, I know that that can be a potential like concern for somebody. Like, I'm already doing so much. How can I do this extra thing? So thank you for breaking that down because yeah, it is like it's just 1 hour a week and then a couple other hours throughout the month, which I mean, it's nothing. When you really look at it, it's nothing. Like I can spend an hour on my phone doing nothing. Like why not just chime in and do something fun? Which of course I know healing and these spaces don't always come off as like, come join this fun. Like it could have this like weight of like, oh, healing is can be so intense. What am I gonna do healing for 6 months straight? That's gonna drive me crazy, maybe. These are potential thoughts that we could have. So I'm glad that you're saying that it was like something you looked forward to, and especially because you were feeling almost instant results and it was becoming a tool rather than like an additional task. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really grounding for me. You know, I did address some really hard things. Like, you know, I went through a lot of like stressors with just personally, I've always had a natural intuition. I've always been really tapped into, you know, other realms. And I believe I've lived many lives, you know, before. And I think that I came into this world carrying some of those skills and some of that knowledge, but and by skills and knowledge I mean like being able to communicate with other spirits, sometimes having prophetic dreams or like prophetic thoughts or like intuitive nudges, but it was so overwhelming. That is why I really leaned into this space because I knew that like even though if it was going to be hard to address like underlying blockages while also like learning how to show up for myself, you know, when I'm dealing with all of these things. And I was worried about looking directly at like, what is this? Like, what is this that keeps giving me so much anxiety about the future? Because I don't really know how to address like the dreams that I have. And like, I'm spending so much time worrying about it, or I'm feeling so anxious because I keep seeing like signs and symbols, but it doesn't feel like they're for me. It feels like something else is trying to like come into my space, but I don't know what to do about it because I have care in my heart, you know, for whatever is going on there. I feel like it was really hard to address, but it was like there is so much energetic support in the container, even though the commitment is really just a few hours a month, that like there was never a moment where I didn't feel supported or I didn't know that like someone had my back. And I feel like when I say someone had my back, it's like my spirit guides, you know, like really had my back and that you had my back. And so doing that, of course, it felt kind of tiring mentally at first, where I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to do this. But when you get that release, like through healing, where like it's not something that's just getting brought up, there's like an invitation and opportunity and energetic support for genuine release. Like when you surrender, it's so much different than for me, like therapy I've been to, for example, because I've been in therapy long term, where you talk about it and then it's all about acknowledging that it's there. And then maybe I have to take the rest of the day. And then the rest of the week, I'm just thinking about, like, oh, you know, I still have this stuff I need to get out. Like, it made me realize more things. It's like every time something hard did come up, I was offered the energetic tools to address it, and it didn't have to just stay like this open experience where like now I'm just stuck in a loop of worrying about, you know, maybe some thoughts of like child abuse and violence that was done to me. um Maybe that would come up and I'm just like, oh, this is so much, you know, in therapy. versus that being brought up maybe through a healing, naturally being brought up, not poked and prodded, but like that's what my soul kind of pulled up out of me to be addressed at that time. And then being able to be like, okay, this is coming up for me. Like, I release this, like, how can I address this? And I think when we actually say, like, I'm ready to let this go in like a container like this, it's not something that you're just holding on to. It's like, okay, you can actually let it go. And then you would might be surprised about the next thing comes up. It might be that you feel more peace inside. You might feel less nervous. I used to always feel very like physically constantly on edge around people. Like I had a really hardened shell because I started living alone at like 14, like by myself. But these tools, it's like if you can acknowledge like, oh, this is what's coming up for me. I'm feeling very like unsafe. I'm feeling, this stuff. Tools are offered, and opportunity to move through that and past that is very much possible and very much available. It's not a mental thing. And I think that that's what makes it so healing, is that it's more an energetic release. And the epiphanies that come from that are definitely beautiful, but it's the energy that actually does the healing. And so you can almost, if you're willing to surrender, you can almost take a back seat mentally because you're being guided through all of those healing revelations without having your entire being, like your mental energy into it. So it's a space to receive. Yeah, even when hard things come up, you're receiving. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing just even just the distinction in your experience of having an already safe space for healing like therapy. And then like coming into a space like this that's more of a spiritual, right? And it is energy work, like you're receiving energy work on a regular basis, which does go deeper than, like you said, the mind, right? Like talking things out is one way to get things out of the body. And yet, what is at the root, right? And this is a part where the energy comes in. And when you said it, the mind can take a back seat and your guides and the energy does the work. We're basically talking about we are working with our divine spirit team, our guides, our angels. And so by way of calling in these energies, the work is getting done at a deeper level. And so the mind doesn't have the opportunity to dissect, for any like skepticism or doubt to come in. Is just sort of like it's rest. It's rest for the mind so that the spirit can get its healing. And then, like you said, the epiphanies come, right? Then the ideas, the clarity. And it's because you are getting funk out of the body. So, like, you become more and more yourself, which means you become more and more connected to every part of yourself, right? Which is like your higher self and everything else that I just talked about. A direct connection to God, whatever you define God as. But it is a very unique experience to be able to talk about what's coming up, but then also, all right, brain, let's go over here and like let's see what's happening in the energy body, right?
Mm.
Rather than just the physical. Because as we know in this work, everything starts at the energetic before it becomes manifest, right? So even a physical illness could be from negative thought forms, it could be from trauma, it can be from past life wounding, it could be so many other things that the brain doesn't know to consider. So, yeah, it's deep and it's beautiful. So, thank you for sharing that. And not to knock therapy at all, right? It's just you can see the differences in how one works for one thing and the other can work at a deeper level. So, you did mention a little bit of like childhood trauma and like anxieties and like psychic attack, right? Are these things that you came into the container with, like things that you were already working through that were needing maybe like a final piecing together? Like I want people to know like where were you at? Like where were you when you first started? Like what were the things that were running through your head that you were just like, this needs to be taken care of?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let me think how to phrase it. I would say at that time, I was very restless. I was at a point where I could not even really sit still. I faced a lot of housing insecurity before joining the program. So I've been homeless a couple times, and when I joined the program, I was still going through a lot of housing insecurity, especially just where I lived in the college that I was at once I transferred. I had to move a lot just in like 2 years. So I was feeling very ungrounded. I was feeling like I was still living in the past. So although I was in a place where I knew I was always going to have a place to sleep, even if I had to move a lot, which not to invalidate that that can be ungrounding, but even though I knew I was always going to have food to eat, I was still operating from that space. So I feel like I was in a very lack mindset. I was very much focused on what I didn't have and how to make sure that I can get it. Like, how could I get a long term this and this and this? So I was always trying to be one step ahead of where I was in my body, what I was working on at that time. I was working on these degrees because I felt that it added to what I'm an outdoor educator and it's something I'm very passionate about. But I was so elsewhere and invalidating of how much work I'm putting into my life and how much was changing, even if it was little by little. A lot of that looked like active flashbacks to really challenging times where I was physically unsafe due to the housing challenges, or I was eating whatever I could find, even though I knew it was not good for me and it would hurt my stomach. And I would be so upset and I would just start crying and hyperventilating because I almost felt like stepping out of that situation and being in a new space a little bit because I had recently moved to go to my 4 year university as a transfer. It gave me too much time. It's crazy because I would have never said this when I first moved, because my whole thing was like I need time and space to work on this. And I did. I did need to create the space in my life to focus on moving past my past and not repeating patterns. But mentally, I just had too much time on my hands. And at the same time, I was at school and like always running around. So, like, too much time, but not enough time. I was stuck in this, like, how much time do I have? And time is running out for me to create this new, I want something different. I want to feel safe, but how? And so it just created this really strong mental loop of like, I'm not safe, I'm not okay. What is, ever going to be different? Anxiety attacks to the point where like I was on the ground and like paralyzed. Like I could not move sometimes because for the first time in my life, I had the ability to slow down enough to where I could almost remember these things that were repressed. And so it created this really challenging loop where it's almost like I feel like my nervous system repressed how I was feeling because I just had to go, go, go. And so, yeah, I feel like that's where I was at with a lot of these things. So there was a lot of mental energy going on. But at the same time, I've always felt very spiritually, I don't know the word, attuned, or I've always been very drawn, that's the word, drawn to spirituality and understanding that there were greater forces in life that we can turn to, a belief that like there must be something out there that I'm not maybe aware of that can be a tool for me. And the thing is, I didn't have the space to go to learn that though. It was hard for me to find. I've taken some courses with people who really didn't have my best interest in mind and were dealing with their own healing, and it's really hard to acknowledge, but yeah, someone who was taking advantage of people in the community. So it created this real fear for me to reach out for help anymore. So I was trying to do it myself. But what happened was I was opening up because I didn't have the skills, and by skills I just mean knowledge and support, really. It's not like something you have to work for. It's there for me, and I know that now that I've been a part of this course and I know how to tap into that, but I didn't have the access to learning about these things. And so I would sometimes get misguided, and there would be like a voice that would come into my field, and I would think that I'm connecting with my higher self or my spirit team, but there was just some pairs in my energy field that I needed to address that I just didn't know were there. I didn't even know that could exist at the time. So there was just some things about spiritual hygiene that I didn't know that then created this almost loop of like, I really want to move past these things, but I have these spirits coming into my field and it doesn't feel good. And at one point, I was just like, and I prayed and just put the intention out there, like, I'm ready to go and address this. Like, whatever I have to do, like, I'm ready to put myself out there. And naturally, I came across, I forget how we reconnected because we have known each other for almost or like 7 years now. Just in passing, like we did a volunteer thing together, and that's how we met. But somehow we reconnected. Somehow I ended up on your page. And then I learned about the course, and I was like, okay, whoa. And I'm really glad I did it because I do not have panic attacks anymore. If something comes up, I know how to breathe through it and I know who I am, and I don't let those things define me. Even if it's like I'm noticing a pattern that still needs to be addressed from how I define my worth or how authentic I let myself be in spaces from whatever. There's always layers, we're all human. But when these things come up, I don't get pulled back into the past. And I'm able to be like, wait, but here I am, and what's really happening around me right now? Like, am I safe right now? And if I'm not safe right now, it gives me that discernment too to be like, okay, well, maybe I just need to go home and like have a sweet treat or like, take a bath. Like, so it really gave me more of a clarity that let me care for myself in the ways my soul has always wanted to, and I have wanted to, but I just didn't know where to go for that guidance. And I was really scared and discouraged from my past experiences. And I'm so glad I did because this is the most genuine, like loving and like caring container, and just such purity of heart and intention. I just felt so supported, and at first I was a little scared, but it was so perfect. I had that past thing come in, and then I was able to just settle into the space, and that was really meaningful for me.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, but also congratulations. I mean, just hearing you say, like, no more panic attacks. You know who you are, you know how to breathe, you have the discernment. You mentioned, your before, right, in a capsule, and maybe I don't name them all, but you mentioned anxiety, which you're saying it's handled, it's under control. You mentioned the instability with the housing. I'm wondering where you're at with that now. You mentioned flashbacks. I'm also wondering where you're at with that now. And then maybe if you can share what helped you with those things in particular.
Yeah, so flashbacks, or actually, I want to talk about the anxiety.
Okay.
I feel like it's really natural to be anxious in this world. I feel like the world that we live in the physical reality, like the 3D that we're programmed into or plugged into as a very young child, is very dysregulating. Like, it operates from dysregulation and dysfunction. It's a lot of no time for rest. You have to remember a million things. You have to do a million things. And that's like success. And that's what I was taught as a child. I think that it's important for me to acknowledge that, you know, in my family in particular, we're Mexican on my mom's side, and there's been a lot of oppression. There's been a lot of this 3D reality that has created this very dysregulating experience for my family, creating this survival mode because of just a lot of harm that was existing in past generations and was very present in my family's life due to access. And so my family's worked really hard to get us to a certain space, but success has been almost because of that, and because thankfully, you know, my family, everybody has a home and they have their basic needs met. There was like this predefined success. And so I was always very anxious about kind of moving through life, wondering where I'm going to end up, how I'm going to end up, how I'm going to achieve, kind of like what I said before. And I bring up more of the details on where that comes from for me and where that came from because I feel like that old paradigm, like that old thought and way of existence has really been deconstructed for me. Like, I see the abundance around me. I could be living in like an empty house right now with nothing in it. You know, let's say there's just nothing, and I just have a running sink and a shower and food in the fridge, and I buy myself flowers, and that's all I have in the house. I mean, you can really see the abundance. Like, success and safety has been completely redefined for me as really just seeing the fruits of existence and seeing just how much of a beautiful, like how much joy just bringing, you know, flowers home to myself or having clean water and all these things offer in my life. So with my anxiety, that kind of anxiety around instability has just gone because I allow abundance to look like whatever it is naturally for me instead of defining abundance based off of what abundance looks like for other people. It's given me this like freedom of expression, almost like to be a part of this course and to be shown a new way by my spirit guides because I've been shown that like this life is something where safety is like a right for me. You know, having my basic needs met is a right for me. And then I'm allowed to be slow. I think that was a really big thing for myself because that was something that was not, you know, done in my family. I'm allowed to relax and I love it and I can love these things, and a productive day for me can be just resting, and I can really feel that way and I can really love it. And I can watch a movie and not feel guilty that I'm not working on my goals because what it means to be valid as a human being for me is no longer defined by my external reality. And so that, I mean, I would have never thought that that could just relieve so much anxiety because it no longer feels like you have to earn a place in the world. And with that comes a certain level of peace, like for me, knowing that I am loved, like, and I am cared for because I'm here on this earth, and there's nothing that I need to do to earn that or prove that. And of course, you know, we're all learning how to be more kind and we're elevating as a society and a collective. We're growing, but truly, I feel like it allows me to feel like even when, you know, life might present me with these things that might be challenging, like a new job and learning new things and building new relationships with people, or, you know, these other things. Like, I have the knowing in myself that, like, no matter what happens externally, like, I'm loved and I am an expression of that love that is here on this earth for us to receive and be a part of, and that nothing can really take that away from me anymore. Or more, not take that away from me, but I no longer give myself to those those thoughts or those dynamics that a lot of times we can engage in, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So that's my anxiety. And for panic attacks, I think to share where I'm at with that now, like sometimes things will come up for me. Like, it does not mean that I'm not growing. I'm still here on this earth, so that means I'm still fulfilling, different lessons and learning these, new ways to embody the fullness of who I am and letting go of the things that no longer serve me. But I can deeply cry, and it can be like, oh, I'm crying from my soul because this makes me feel sad. But I can let that part of myself die, if that makes sense. At least not part of myself, but I can let those past thoughts die with the crying. So it's like a release. It's like, the other day I was crying because I was like, wow, I'm in such an amazing place. And I was just like, and now it's time for me to lean into even more vulnerability. And so I just had to cry that out. I had to cry out the fears of, what comes with another level of vulnerability, right? But I was able to cry, and I just like cried on the couch, and I cried and I cried. But I had so much love in myself when I was doing that. Like, I was really holding myself instead of reliving the past. I was able to think like, wow, and I was observing, wow, these are the some of the thoughts maybe I'm still holding on to around vulnerability, in relationships with new people, and like how to be vulnerable with new people, and be like, and that's okay, that's not who I am. And like, I can let go of that. And I went out on the couch. I have a partner, I live with my partner, and cried. And he heard me, and he woke up, and he asked me how I was doing. And I think that it was nice to really not need anything too. Like, but I deeply appreciated, that he wanted to give me a hug or see how I was doing. And not to say that we have to be independent, but it was more like I got myself, and my spirit guides got me. And right now, this is the reality I'm living. And like, in terms of like, I'm aware of the positive reality I'm living, and like feeling safe enough to just be like, okay, like I feel this. And then the next day be like, okay, I'm just going to integrate that part of myself, is powerful. Instead of it becoming almost like this is the past and I'm reliving it and this is going to happen again, and then not allowing myself unintentionally, for sure, in the past, but not allowing myself to then just step into another part of me. It becomes more like shedding a layer than it becomes like being stuck in a loop. So yeah.
That's huge. Yeah, because I think there is this idea that being healed means like you no longer feel, right? Like no more sadness, no more pain, but we're human. And so of course part of being human means the full spectrum of feeling all the things. And you said it, the key is you're not in a loop. You're not re-experiencing from a space of victimhood. You're from a space of love and higher perspective and understanding that you're actually just releasing. You're feeling to release, and the next day you'll integrate, and before you know it, there will be wisdom. And that's that. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to be able to cry and know that it's okay. Crying doesn't mean something is wrong and that anything needs to be fixed, right? It's just a process. It's like this perfect tool that already exists within us that unfortunately gets dampened down, when people say, don't cry. And it's like, no, we're supposed to. We're supposed to feel. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's what a testimony. I mean, yeah, and when you mentioned when you started not being able to sit still, and like I look at you and you just like you feel so peaceful to me. You're so grounded. You're so clear. Like it's so beautiful. Like you're not just saying it. It'd be funny if you're like, I used to and not anymore, but yet you're like still fidgeting, right? It's very much embodied.
Thank
Very
you.
much embodied. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that makes me want to ask you. So obviously there were like some old running maybe thoughts or beliefs that kept you in like loops before, right? Like you said, not having the certain knowledge or tools to like, okay, now I know I can do this instead, or like now I have an understanding of who I can work with or how I can work with myself. And in this container, we do cover so many teachings and tools and practices. For you, what would you say has like really stuck with you? Like something that's really impacted your way of life?
I would say there's a couple things, but I'll try and keep it to just a few. I would say that working with grounding and shielding practices are huge for me. Like learning how to clear my energy field of anything that I may be releasing and say, getting rid of that residue, maybe just like leftover parts of emotions. That was not something I even fully knew was possible. I feel like when you think about it, though, and you learn more about the foundations of like what an auric field is, anyways, what even is an energy field, it makes sense to go in and like do some flushing out. It's like washing your face, you know? It's like you could wash your face versus, or how do I explain? You could like, wipe your face, right, of sweat. Like let's say you sweat that day, you can wipe your face and be like, oh, okay. But then you can also wash your face. And I think, it makes sense, right, to wash your face because you want to clear it. Yeah, you've got the main sweat off, but you also have maybe some leftover stuff you want to clean, impurities on your face. And it's the same with your energy field. And I think learning that was really, really powerful for me. And letting in light, letting in energetic support, higher frequency support was so hard for me. And sometimes I still have a hard time with it, but that's because it's a long process. When I say hard time, I mean like in comparison to where I was at versus now, it's just like the next level of receiving, but it's really impacted me because I feel like if I let myself receive, I never go drained. You know, sometimes I feel drained and it's because I've given too much and maybe given from a part that was more of like my own energy for myself versus like letting myself be filled with my own love and care so that I can overflow that. And I think as a naturally caring and empathetic person and like someone who just really loves everyone, like I really just want everyone to know that they're loved. Like I really do. It felt like I always wanted to pour from my cup. And I know that, I grew up hearing the phrase, like, first you have to pour, or not grew up hearing the phrase, but like, once I started entering more of like dedicating myself to spiritual growth, I would always hear like, first you have to pour into yourself so that you can pour into other people. But I didn't know how to do that. What does it actually mean to pour into yourself? And if it's not me using my own energy to pour into myself, then where am I getting this energy from? You know, when I'm already on like maybe like 2% because I'm doing so much. So I think that that is just such a vital part of loving myself. And in turn, as someone who I feel so always overjoyed in showing up and caring for other people, that was also a big way for me to learn how I can do that because there was a point where I did shut down and I was like, no, don't talk to me. I'm working on myself. And I think that that was a necessary step. But the next step for me was like learning how to pour into myself and then also learning how to release when anything comes into my field, be it my own of something that I'm letting go of, or be it maybe something came into my field. And with that, I also feel that discernment is a really big thing that I learned. How to trust my gut, how to trust myself. To share a little bit more about my background, I grew up in a very narcissistic household. I was an only child and I was kind of thrown into codependent cycles. So a lot of what that looked like for me specifically was that how I felt was never valid. How someone else felt about how I felt is how I should feel about the situation. My needs were never valid. It's how someone felt about what I needed and whether or not that fit into their plan was that what was valid. So, etc. You know. And so with that came always looking externally because I was taught that everything that I felt was wrong. I wasn't even told like necessarily like, oh, that's not what I need. I need this. It was just like, no, you're wrong. You're feeling this way or you're doing this. This is what you mean. How could you mean that? Or a lot of just like, I would even say gaslighting, even if it was not intentional in that way. It was more of like I know you, I can read your mind, like kind of vibe of like, you don't know you. What are you talking about? Like, here's what I'm observing about you. This is what's true. And it took a lot of time for me to recognize that and realize that I rely on other people. I relied on other people to tell me that I'm okay. Like, oh, am I okay? Like, did I do something wrong or blah, blah, blah? Are you mad at me? It turned into that kind of thing. Like, are you mad at me? Are you upset at me right now? Did I do something wrong? Am I making the right choices? And doing the energetic clearing of those situations, I feel like then made the space for being able to talk to myself and be like, wait, okay, I've already let go of that, like from my family. So how do I feel about it actually? And with that also came like I noticed I wasn't attracting relationships like friendships that thrived off of them validating me and almost like a power dynamic where I was giving too much power to others on how they felt about me. Meanwhile, a lot of the times they were disrespecting me and not like respecting my boundaries or work relationships or other types of relationships. And that just feels really good. It feels like, good to not be in that space anymore where I'm attracting those things. And I have really great friends. I have like a wonderful partner who really cares about me and, wants to support me. And I am able to be more discerning about work environments, and spaces, and I know when to walk away. And then that same spiritual aspect of like when I used to deal with a lot of external noise from other spirits around me, now I don't at all because I don't look to outside of myself for that guidance. I've built this internal channel of like just like pure like channel with my higher self and my team, and I know who they are now and I know what they feel like. And if I almost like I'm tapping into maybe just like a higher version of myself, but I know I can go higher and I know what that feels like. Like, let me expand myself, even being able to do that and have more autonomy over like what I receive also as guidance and like whether or not that guidance feels good to me is really like really impactful because I used to get like a decision paralysis and just taking responsibility over my life honestly was just hard. And I don't mean that in like a harsh way. I just mean like I was not taught how to be responsible for myself. I was taught to hold space for other people. And so, the concept was really scary. And at first, when I was thinking about that before I entered the course, but then I learned like actually it's so rewarding because you get to really be the fullness of who you are when you do that. You're giving yourself permission to live all of your wildest dreams because now it's not based on how other people feel about you living your dreams or, whether or not other people are carving the opportunities for you to do those things. And the cool thing with it too is sometimes your dreams change, because you're actually tapping into who you are and not what you've been told, So, I have two musicians as parents, and One of my parents is like really well respected and like really well known, and it's like does a lot of really big things in the music industry. And so I was taught that like that's what success looks like. And anytime I was given many opportunities to go on with like Grammy winning recording artists. I'm a singer and I just didn't want to. And I would say no. And I was shamed for that by one of my parents for a long time. But now I'm so sure that I made the right choice. And now I'm so sure that that's not what I want. Like, what I want is to feel good singing and to share it with people who want to receive it, and to be inspired by other musicians and to offer my voice as an inspiration to spark their inner joy or a moment of enjoying even just singing and just a moment of enjoyment of play on the earth and like how much fun it is to do these things. So I no longer feel those pressures, and that was a really big weight on my shoulders for a long time. And what comes with that will come with that. But I think that that is the beautiful part of tapping into what your heart truly desires. Yeah. So,
Yeah. That's freedom. Thank you.
yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
I had prepped questions, but you've already like answered so much without even. But I was just looking down to see if there's anything that's like standing out to me that I want to ask you right now, just so that we don't make this like too long. Since you're already speaking on like discernment and peace and freedom and all of this, I want to ask you. Like now that you've gone through the heaven on earth container, what would you say heaven on earth means to you now?
I love this question. Oh my goodness. Okay. I would say it makes me emotional because I'm like, oh my goodness, like heaven on earth as a container is so special, and like heaven on earth as an embodiment is like so special too. I would say that heaven on earth to me feels like, I don't know why this popped up in my head, but like an ocean of love that like came back for me because I feel like heaven on earth is seeing that there's no divide between heaven and earth, that it's all here and available for you now. And I'm getting chills. Yeah, and being able to see the love in everything too, which is why an ocean of love came up, because you could see an ocean and then you could know love, but to see an ocean of love as this planet and like as this incarnation in this lifetime and this timeline and this frequency is such a blessing and such a gift and available to anyone. It's about seeing that we are no separate from God. The earth is no separate from heaven, and that we have the ability to embrace that and be within that now. So that's what it means to me.
So beautiful. I was getting chills too. I felt your emotions. I felt the ocean of love. Yes, it's available to all of us. That's literally like the greatest takeaway is that it is all here. It is all available. So if we were to look at heaven on earth as a frequency having its own sort of attributes, right? We're talking about love, we mentioned freedom, discernment, play, right? Like, what does your heaven on earth timeline look like now, day to day? How does that look in your life?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that I get to share this because I'm so excited. The timing for me was just so like aligned, not just spiritually, but also physically, like in the physical world. It was just like such cool timing. So my partner and we moved to East Bay, which is like right outside of San Francisco. We're in Berkeley now, and we have this really cool two-bedroom apartment, which is crazy when I think of like all of my limiting beliefs before, because the fact that we are like a two-person household and we have a two-bedroom is something that I didn't think was possible, especially with the financial constraints. But this place costs the same amount as a one-bedroom. And sometimes that's not even how the abundance comes in, you know? But we live in a two-bedroom. We are almost finished building a music studio in our extra bedroom. So I have space to make music. We have a private backyard. Oh my gosh, there are these cute little bugs flying around. Oh my gosh! We have a private backyard, which is can be really rare in East Bay, especially Berkeley area and like apartment situations. So that is really special. It's space for us to do yoga. My boyfriend also is a break dancer, so it's enough space for him to go spin on his head and do all his cool, fun tricks that he does. I have, we have a son, a little cat son that I genuinely believe like incarnated to be our child. And I'm gonna show you him because I want to. His name is Atlas, and he's the sweetest little sweetie pie. Say hi, Atlas.
Hi, baby. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh, beautiful.
And we have my days are spent singing and listening to music. We have a really cool hip hop community. I'm opening myself up, and so I'm making really sweet friends. We have a spiritual jazz community, so we've met people who are really into spiritual jazz, like Alice Coltrane, who does really awesome stuff. She's like an OG, and they'll spin vinyl and, curate space for enjoying those things. I'm a part of a scratching community, so I'm learning how to DJ scratch, which is so much fun. Like, that is so cool. I did not expect that to come into my field, but I love it and it makes so much sense for me. It just feels right. I just started working at the local animal shelter actually as a humane educator. So I work with kids and I also work with animals. And so I get to really bridge this like very beautiful like mission that I have been placed on earth, with. It's like a core mission of just reconnecting people to humans and reconnecting humans and animals and nature and like creating that kind of like circle and harmony again. And so I love that I get to do it with humans and animals, and there are some naturey parts too. And I don't even know, it was my first interview, it just fell into place. I would never thought that I would work at an animal shelter, but it makes sense. I also I did I do energy work on the animals when they want to receive it. Like I offer them like, roses, or I offer them a bubble, or like, a calming cord. And the last time I worked, actually last time was my second day. It was on my birthday actually, which was like the best way to spend my birthday day. And it's so sweet because I'm pouring into myself and I'm seeing how I'm just getting so many opportunities in that way too, to pour into others. Like there was this kitty and I was talking to him and he was just like, I'm just really over it. Like I'm capped out. It's loud here. I'm so over it. Like I'm done. And I was able to just talk to him and like, reassure him that like he's loved, and he got a little upset. He was of course like, whatever. But then he came back and he took a seat and I was able to offer him a bubble and a grounding cord and an earth cord and show him. And while I was doing it, and then like while I was like kind of bringing that energy down, his eyes started closing and he fell asleep. And it was just so sweet. And I think like, yeah, like learning these skills mean that like I get to, these are the physical parts of it, right? But how I really feel is that I get to live in a way that is true to my soul. And there are no limitations to doing what I love. You know, there's no limitation to being inspired and then creating from that. And there's no, oh, that's so cool. I wish I could do this. Or, oh, that sounds so amazing. Hopefully one day I can get there. Like one of my dreams and like one of these kind of missions that I always have felt called to is always just to like either live in or create a center for animals, children, and nature, like a healing space for all three of them. And it's just like no longer a question. Like, yeah, if that's what's meant to happen, like it's going to happen. Like, you know, and yeah, I'm about to record my album finally, and it's music that I've had for like 5 years, but I kind of stand by this thing too of like, but this was like the missing piece for me. And I'm really happy that I did wait. This is like just me personally. I support everyone in like what feels right for them. But for me, I feel like this was the missing piece of like what feels good to like, sing and share that kind of stuff. So I feel like I finally have the tools to like tap into my gifts and like my these things that feel like my purpose and my life path and be nourished instead of scared, anxious on how I'm going to get from one step to the next or have it feel like this kind of like hustle or grind. So, I'm so excited and it is just such a blessing and yeah, life is just really good and I love my family too. I think building a family feels so good. And I think a lot of times I grew up feeling like I'm not deserving of like a healthy family. So that's just a really big thing too. I just feel like all of these thoughts that I had, it's like, it's not just that I don't believe them, it's that I know they're not true. And I think that that's like where you can take that energy work and this spiritual understanding and this embodiment of heaven on earth and bring it down into reality, you know? Because there's like other ways to approach it, like talking things through or debunking beliefs, but this is not just a gateway to like understand. This is like a gateway to allow yourself to become and like express. And so that's what heaven on earth, yeah, looks like for me right now. And I love it. It's amazing. I'm literally so having such a great time.
Yes. I love this for you. You literally are so free. Your energy is so inviting. It's so contagious. Like, I'm inspired. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I love, love, love how you've been able to like take these tools from the container and like help your little like animal babies. And I love that you can in real time see the impact and the effect of the energy work. I've done energy work on little animals too here and there randomly. Like my friend's dog was like super high, like high energy, really anxious. And they were like, oh, they're just like that. Like I was like, let's help you out a little bit. Let's see what you're willing to receive. And baby boy knocked out, just like Kitty.
Exactly.
And so I love when there's like that instant proof, right? Not that we need it, but it just feels so good when you see it and you're like, yes, yes, this stuff works.
100%. Yeah, I feel like it started, and this is another thing too. Like, I've learned not to block my blessings. That is a really huge thing for me. I've learned not to like give myself a reason not to do something, you know? Like, that's a huge thing. Like, this probably, who knows where I would have ended up, but my kitty came in at the perfect time. He's the one who inspired me to like look into this job, like shelter work, and then I found this job that is like not a very common job and it was just a perfect fit, you know? But it started by doing energy work on him and helping him move through the traumas of like shelter life and the he was in a car accident before we got him and like helping him pull that energy out of him. And so, yeah, like you never know where things are going to take you. And I think having the skills to know that you're protected, you're free, you can do whatever you want, everything that's meant for you will be there, like offers that ability to not block those blessings.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and that's a perfect piece to the puzzle when things arrive, being open to receive because you really just never know where it's going to lead. And I remember when we were having a conversation, I think it was an accountability call. And you were telling me, like, you're still deciding about whether to get a kitty or not get a kitty, move or not move. And, like, I just love hearing, like, the end result of where this has taken you because you were able to just take those leaps of faith and really just, like, follow the signs and follow that. That feeling of like, this feels good. Why am I, why am I coming up with reasons not to feel this, right? Yeah, beautiful. So I kind of want to start wrapping up. Let me just take a look here. So I have this question that came to me. I was like, oh, it's a fun way of like offering advice, not to other people, but like, like there's the you that just started, right? There's the you that was just like at the beginning, like just said yes to this container. And then there's the you that's already here, fully out, complete, and like living your best life. And so, what would you say, like you now, what advice would you give to your old you? Now knowing, the challenges or obstacles or things that may have come up along your journey that you think would have helped you just like get the best or get the most of this experience if there were an even higher timeline, right? And doing it, by the way, is actually doing the work. Like giving her those keys now is actually expanding your now.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay, I would say not to be afraid to dive in. Like, don't be afraid to dive in. And actually, like, let yourself fully express every emotion. Like, everything that comes up, there's no need to be afraid of letting yourself feel it fully, whether it's sadness, whether it's joy, whether you want to dance about it, if you need to shake about it, draw about it. I would say that there are no limits to how this container can impact you, and that there's so much space and room for just it being perfect for you. And like, however you feel naturally inspired to process the information, like maybe because at first I was very focused on taking notes, and then later on I kind of moved out of that, which I think was really healthy for me. And with encouragement too, because I know I have a habit of thinking like, oh, I have a bad memory. Like, I need to write this down. Yeah, like you can be dancing, in the back of a call if that's what helps you. You can be like drawing or knitting or drinking water or like, as long as I would just tell myself like as long as you're present, like feel free to express and reflect all the lessons and embody it in a way that's like true to you. And I definitely don't feel like that impacted my ability to receive it at all. But I just, at the end there, I started feeling so much more comfortable, like moving around if I need to move around. Like it's not a class where you have to sit and just ignore all of your natural human needs and urges and stuff. And yeah, that's what I would say. And I would say, like, write poetry about what you're learning if you want. Like, let it be whatever it is supposed to be for you. Like, it doesn't have to be a course, it can just be like a muse. Like, let it be a muse of inspiration for your life because that's what it's meant to be. So don't hold back from that. I think that's what I'd say.
I love that. Write poetry about it. I love that. So let's go ahead and just like put all of that beautiful advice in a little bubble and imagine that old you, that first day you sitting in front of that computer, having whatever feelings you were having. And I want you to place that bubble in her heart or wherever she wants to receive it. Make sure that she receives it. You'll know when she has. And then you might even feel the impact in your own body. Just come back whenever that's complete.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally it's like another version of the work that we've done where we go back to younger versions of ourselves
Mhm.
as their higher selves that already has all the keys, right? To be like, hey, try this, do this. And that is instantly woven because you're all one, right? That's instantly woven into the future. And so, timelines from this moment, we actually opened new potentials for you.
Love that. I love that. It was perfect because I could just see, like always, like I could just see like all the new doors it opened for me and all the new doors are that are open now, like because of that.
Amazing.
I always love doing that kind of work, especially with that new knowledge, because you become aware it's never a missed opportunity. Like, it's not like, oh, I didn't do this in the past. It's like, no, I'm opening this up for now. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I feel like that kind of felt really good as like a closing. Unless, is there anything else that you might want to share?
I would just love to share that you are such an amazing teacher and like so true and like true to your heart and like always so genuine and authentic in every moment. And that's just such a blessing. And like, I would genuinely recommend like this to anyone because you're just someone who I feel has such a true, like, genuine, deep interest in caring for other people and, like, really deeply have other people's interests in mind. And, like, yeah, I think just that, like, also too, like, I was afraid coming into the course that, like, I had, like, too complex of, like, a background or, like, too complex of a personal history because I've been through so much. And I've never felt so seen and heard and not judged. And like, I never felt like I was too much. And that's something that limited me in the past from like fully being like my own authentic self and be like, this is what's on my plate. Like, this is what I'm going through. Because I was always worried no one would be able to handle it. And I had experience with that in the past. But there's a lot more too that I didn't get to share verbally about what I've gone through, and I felt like there was space for everything to be held. And I never felt pushed to share anything either. It was always just like, so if there's anyone out there who worries too, like, oh, am I just gonna be too much for this container? Like, have I been through too much, to where like I need, more help, um, I would say you're never too much. You're never too much for God. And that's where what we're working with. And you're never too much for those you are meant to be around and are aligned with. And in general, you're never too much. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, love. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's such a gift to feel seen and heard. especially individuals in, these types of bodies, right? Like there's so much that goes into mm, not feeling safe for whatever reason, to the point where things that might seem silly are like, I don't know that I feel safe, but when you finally experience that, like that truly is like a catalyst for deep growth, because you get to just be. Like that's ultimately what we want, right? We just want to be.
Hmm.
Be fully expressed and in everything that we are, in every phase that we come in and that we move through, because yes, we're perfect in God's eyes, but yet we're also human, we're like imperfectly perfect and always moving through things and always learning things. And what better love than to be fully received just as you are. I
Yeah.
think that's like the greatest gift I can offer. Everything else, like it's your guides, it's my guides, they're in collaboration, and everything that's meant to be worked through comes up, and we do it as gently and as lovingly as possible.
Hey, gosh, thank you so much for the amazing conversation and for the course and just for being you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing yourself in this way. I really pray that this reaches exactly who is meant to be a part of this conversation, and who is meant to really get something from this for themselves, whether it's, looking into heaven on earth, or whatever, right? Ultimately, is just finding that inner truth of knowing who you are and following that no matter what.
Yes, I really pray for that too. May this find the right people at the right time, and may this love that is in this space and in our hearts be felt fully, and may all people know that everything that they desire is available to them. Hmm.
Ashe. Thank you, love. So we'll wrap up there. Final word from me is like, if you do get anything from this, um, please share it. Don't worry about subscribing. Don't worry about comments. Just share it. So with that, thank you so much. I love you so much. Um, have a beautiful day.
Love you.